Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to be here because today I want to tell you about 11 great books which I read in January. January for me was really great month. I didn't do any plans. I didn't do any order of books which I want to read one by one. I actually didn't do a list of books which I want to read in January because I told you in my plans video that January for me is really a wonderful month because I just take books from my shelves, I start to read them, enjoy them without any expectations, without any ideas. I just read and enjoy. And I really love every year when I have such a great 1 month, because other months I try to do any plans. So let's talk today about 11 great books, and I want to tell you today about different genres. And it was a really interesting for me to try new authors because I try to read more new series because I wanted to meet with new universes, with new characters, with new atmospheres. So yeah, let's start with the great book which I read. It was the first book which I decided to read in 2025. It was Simona St. James and the book of Cold Cases. So story is really cool, and the atmosphere was really perfect for me because I was in a mood of mystery, in detective lines, because in this story we have two lines, our time, the present, and the past. And we know that in the past there would some bad things happen with the people. The serial killer was in a small town, a lot of men died, and nobody knows actually what happened. And a lot of years ago there were investigation, and a lot of policemen thought that the person who would be guilty in all these bad things happened is a daughter of the wonderful man, of the rich man, and everybody just knew that it was she. But actually, when they had a court and when the police started to investigate it, they actually understood that no, it's not this lady, and they just stop to think that she is a murderer. In our time, in the present, we have a main character, girl, and I really love her because she's so curious, she's so interested person. She works in a hospital, and actually she doesn't interested in this work. She just go every day for this place, for this working process, just because of the money, because she needs to live for something. And also our main character, she is in love with true crime stories, and every day after work process, she just sit at home and writing her own book of cold cases in internet. It's like a blog, and where she can make some articles and other people just connect with her. And most of the time she tries to write about this mystical moment in the past when a lot of people died, but no one knows who was the murderer. And of course all these things happen in this city with our main character, and she decided to understand what's going on. And then one day she just understood that near with her a lady who was the person who was the guilty in these cases in the past. And of course she started to ask her question, to have some interviews with her, and from these interviews just understand what's going on. Was she guilty in reality or not? Who was the guilt? What's happened in the past? And why all these people died? So I really love the atmosphere of detective line because I really love the main character Shai. She was a really interesting person. She has a really interesting ideas about what's going on in the past with connect and try to connect all these things with the lady who sit near with her. And most of the time I really love the atmosphere of mystery and mystical things because Simona St. James, she's an author who loves to write a lot of moments which make you feel not comfortable during the reading. You try to feel the shivering and so on. And I really love the ideas to have the moment of ghost existing in the story, and I was really shocked to see this one. But I really love that Simona St. James put more realistic moment in the story. I was really in love with this line because actually if it most of the time authors try to connect deeply with the mystery, with some ghost or other moments. Actually, it's not so cool for the story, and for me it's a bit lying. I really love that Simone St. James in the story tried to be more realistic person and try to put the answers for the questions which the reader had. So I put the story 4 out of 5. In some moments in the middle of the book, I just thought that it would be so slowly, and I was a bit bored, but actually all the story was really cool, and I really love to read next book for Simone St. James, because actually I have 2 books which I haven't read. So I have them on my list, so that's why I will read them probably in this year too. The next story is the story which actually in a genre which I don't read mostly, but in January I decided to try something new, and it's Crave Trails of Wolff. So the first story in the big series about the school, about the dark academia moments, about the creatures, about vampires, about the werewolves, about witches, and so on and so on. So actually I was in magical love during reading, because actually I love the location. It was Alaska, and all this big gothic school in dark academia style somewhere in snowy Alaska. So it was really interesting idea, because actually I haven't read something like this, and I was in love with all moments that they weren't so stupid for me. And I really loved the character, the main girl, because she had a bad thing which happened with her family, and now she must be in this place, in this school, with her uncle, who is a director of the school, because she actually doesn't have other relatives who can take care of her living. And in one moment she met new friends. She met Guy, who was the vampire, but our main character, she actually didn't know about this one. She actually didn't know what was this school, and she was all the time in some strange and silly moments in connection with people who studied there, with moments, with lessons, with other things which happened with her. So it was really curious to be in this story, because actually when I read such books rarely, I actually don't feel them so in a bad way, if I can say like this one. So that's why I really love the Crave, and I wanted to continue the series, just to try the second book if it would be the same, if it would be really cool, interesting for me. I of course will continue the series next. So Crave was really great. I love the atmosphere, I love the interesting moments which connected with all these creatures, with mythology, with the ideas that happened something bad in the past in the family of one person in the school, and how as a student connect with each other, what about their relationship, what about the ideas about each other, who friends, who enemies. So it was really interesting. So it was really relaxing, and I understood that if I would have a tense work day or the bad months, I need to take the second book and just relax, just a bit chill with this one, because actually the book is involving. I was reading so fast the story, so actually yeah, I was just shocked from myself, because I actually don't read such books. As I told you, I put the story 4 out of 5, and actually it's really cool. The next story which I want to tell you, it's one of the best stories which I read in January. It's Melanie Goldin and Little Darlings. So it's the psychological thriller about a lady who all the life wanted to have kids. He wanted to be pregnant, and in one day she and her husband understood that she is pregnant and they will have a kid. But in the hospital they understood that they will have 2 kids, twins, and actually for her it was really cool, because she didn't expect that in one moment she started to have 2 kids. And in a day after the burning, when she was in the hospital, she met with a strange lady, and nobody can understand, was it hallucination or was it in real, because this lady was dirty, she was in a bad clothes, with a strange hair, and she tried to tell our main character something about the kids, and the main character just remember that she wanted to take her kids and just put her strange kids on their places. So after this time the main girl started to think that something bad happened, that it will happen in the future. And every time when she came home, she started to see this lady everywhere, in the bushes near the house, on the road. She started to see her every time when she is alone with the kids at home. So no one just see this lady, just our main character. And in one moment, after some case, the lady start to think that yeah, it's happened and the kids different. It's the difference. It's the horrible moments happen with her kids, and kids which she now had in her room, they're not her kids. And from this moment we start to play a psychological game with our main character, try to understand, is it real or not, happened this or not happened, what's going on, is it in her head or in reality. So I really love the story. Also I love the detective line, because the detective was really cool, and she was really interesting like a person. She was so curious, and she all the time tried to make investigation in a correct moment for understanding what's actually going on. I hated the husband of the main character because he is a really bad man, and actually in one moment I just started to think like take the kids and just run away from him, because he's really strange. He doesn't want to help you. He didn't understand her ideas and the thoughts which she had about the kids, about this old strange lady. So all these strange moments which can happen with the man, for me, was really rude and cruel. So actually, yeah, I didn't love him. What I can say about the story, one more plus for me, it was that it connect with the mythology, it connect with some folk stories which can happen on this area, and this was really cool, interesting. So also I love that we don't spend all the time in the house with the lady with the kids. We just move somewhere, we are outside, we're in the park, we are somewhere with the main girl with the kid, or with a detective in a other area near with the river. So it was really cool. I put the story 5 out of 5. The best atmosphere which I read in January. It was so involving, it was so well paced. So actually I wanted to read something else from the Melanie Golding's writing style, because I was really in love. The next story which I want to tell you, it's Alice Feeney and Daisy Darker. I heard tons of positive reviews for this story, and actually I can agree with them, because the story was so interesting, the story was so involving, dark, so atmospheric. All this house with these strange characters, they are family but they don't feel family relationships, they don't have them, they hate each other. So actually it was really interesting. And also I decided to read the story because it connects with Agatha Christie, with her other stories, so popular story. And actually, yeah, I can say that Alice Feeney, she was just in love with the story, and she decided to try something like that in her Daisy Darker novel. So I really love the idea that Daisy Darker, she is a girl, she is a woman, and she all her life had problems with her heart because she had an illness. And every time in the book we had information that she died for some moments, and we start to understand why, what happened, who was from the family, I mean, who was a helper, who was the guilt in these things, and you just see more deeply the relationships in the family. So I really love the plot about the granny of Daisy Darker. She decided to have a birthday party, and she's 80, and she understood that it could be the last birthday party in her life, because a lot of years ago, when she was in a fair, the magician told her that she would die at 80, that somebody killed her. And she decided to make like the last party in her life. She decided to meet with all her family, but she actually doesn't love him. And I was not so surprised at the end, but actually I put the story 4 out of 5, and the story is really, really interesting. So I think that I will continue my meeting with Alice Feeney, and probably I want to read her new story, which just we start to have from the January of this year. So let's see. The next story which I wanted to tell you, it's Cass Morgan and the 100 or the 100. So it's the fantastic story about teenagers, if we can say like this, and this is the first part of the series, and actually I was in love about what's happened there, because actually we don't know what's going on in the past. We just know that it was the explosion of something, and 300 years the people who just survived, they lived in space on the spaceship, and actually they can't go back on Earth because some radioactive moments. And after 300 years, she just started to think it probably started to be okay for living. Is it changed? They need to check it, and they start to have a great plan to put 100 people from the spaceship to the Earth, and like to make a small experiment. Will they survive or not? And all these 100 people, they are actually not good, we can say like this. They from the prison, they made some mistakes, they made some crimes, and they spent a lot of time in the prison. And in the spaceship they had rude rules about if the person teenager in the prison, and when he or she start to be 18, they would be like killed. And other people, they just can't have easily kids, they need to have some license, they need to have a lot of papers. So actually I think it's all on the structure or the system. So actually all the people lived not so cool on the spaceship. So in our 100, they just went on the Earth, and they start to survive there because they can understand that they can breathe, that everything is okay, they have water near with the place where the spaceship just went down, and the water is okay, they can drink it. So actually they start to try to make a new society for understanding how to live, because actually all these teenagers, they have never seen Earth before, and they just knew about this because of the lessons at school, because of the people and parents who just told them about all the things which can happen on the Earth. And actually it was really interesting to be a person who just see every bad moments which can happen, because the story is really interesting written in the different places. We could be in one moment and we can see one situation from the different sides, from the different view, and it was really interesting to feel what you can feel in reality through the pages to every character. We have different characters, they are all main, and it was really sometimes scary to see how the new society on the Earth start to be really bad, because of course all the people were in a prison, as I told you, but it doesn't mean that all of them were bad. Of course they had the good people, bad people, and the bad people start to try to be the main people in the society, and what happened with this one. So actually for the first part of the series I put 4 out of 5, and I will continue to read this one without the questions because I have it. The next story which I want to tell you, it's Robert Sheckley and Dimensions of Miracles. It's a small story about some space moments, because it's the story like a humor story with a lot of jokes. And actually when I read them, I was really laughing, because the story was so easy, was so well paced, and I was really involved in the story, because the main character, he was a really interesting person, and he in one moment started to have something new with him, and the something just told him that, you know, you just won the lottery, and for the taking the prize you need to go to the place which just on another planet. And from this moment the adventure just started. I was really enjoyed the story. It was so light, it was so simple, it was so interesting. Of course it mixing with the mythology, with religion, with the moment of hard questions for society, for humans, about the life, about the God, about the other moments, about the connection and relations. So it was the small story which was really serious, but with the wonderful moments of humor. I put the story 4 out of 5, so it was my meeting with Robert Sheckley, and actually it was really great, and I wanted to continue read his stories or short stories because he had a lot of them. After the sci-fi story, I decided to take another sci-fi, and it was Nerve, Jane Ryan. The story about the game which was so popular among the teenagers. So we have the game Nerve, which you can find in the internet. It's online, and it's like you just try to be in the game, and every day you will have just exercise or a task which you need to do, like a small quest. And if you will do this quest greatly, you will have a prize, and all these prizes just things which you really want. So it's your wish, it's the thing which you so badly want to have. And our main character girl, she's accidentally, we can say, start to be in this game, and she just was involved in this game because every time she was so successful, and every time she had her wish things from her wish list. So it was really interesting for understanding, could I be like a person in this game, and could I do things which she did. Of course, from the beginning, the quests really light, they're not so serious and they're not so bad, but after we just can understand that everything go wrong, and the quests start to be harder, start to be not great for a person who wanted to be in a great line and great positions in the life. So actually, yeah, I put the story 3 out of 5 because I actually didn't love the ending. For me, ending was too much. There are a lot of actions, a lot of moments which can remind me action films, if you can say like this, but I know that there was a film about Nerve, so actually I think that the film is a really great idea to see it like a story which can happen with the people in this game. Reading for me was calm, but after the period started to be super active. The next story was a great story for January. It was so involving and interesting, and actually for me it was so well paced, and the story was All His Pretty Girls, Charlie Cox. So it was a psychological thriller, and it started really interesting because the couple just walking in the park somewhere near the forest, and they found a body, but after some period they understood that this body is not a body, that the person is survived and the girl is breathed, and they need to call the ambulance and just try to help her. And after the period, we start to understand that in the area something bad happened with the people. It's like a serial killer there, and most of the time all victims, they are ladies. They looks like the same, they have the same hair color, they have the same faces, so they looks like twins. And from the one moment, a lot of people in the police start to say our main character girl detective that she looks like exactly like all these victims, and probably she need to be care to herself, and she need to be very intense. So actually I love this story. It's so atmospheric, it's so interesting to be in the story for understanding what's going on there, because in this story we also have a line from the serial killer, and we can understand what the serial killer does with all his victims. I put the story 5 out of 5. It was really interesting, and I wanted to try something else from the author, but actually I have not seen, and I haven't researched from the books which she had. The next story is also a great story which I read in January, and for me it was a surprise, because actually I started to think that it would be a normal modern story about the family, about the ideas that could be in the family and their relationship. It's Our Endless Number of Days, Claire Fuller. So the story told us about England, about the family, and about their relationships, and about the moments when one of the person from the family start to be crazy about something. In the family we have mom. She's a pianist. She's a pianist player. She's so famous, and she all the time just go to other cities and countries for concerts. Her husband, he is a bit a strange man. We actually don't know about his job, profession, about his education. We just know that he is just exist. So this man, he's addicted about surviving, and every time he starts to think that everything would be bad, it would be nuclear war, and he and his family will die, and all other part of the story, we're in a forest, we grow up with the girl, we just can understand what's happened, and we stayed live in the forest with all with two our characters, because the father of the girl in one moment just came and told her that everybody died and they could be only on this place in the forest, and they can't go anywhere because it was an earthquake and there is no earth for living. I put the story 5 out of 5, and it's really one of the great stories which I read in my life, and I think that I need to read something else from the author, because I just felt that this author is mine. The next story which I wanna tell you, it's 13, Steve Cavanagh. It's psychological court thriller about the ideas of our serial killer. He understood that he wants to be a person who tried to make a killing through the court, through the person who actually no one just say that he was guilty, he's a bad man. The main idea of the story talks us about the person who was guilty in the murder of two people, his husband, his wife, and her somebody, because nobody knows who was the second man in the house. This guilty person who was a really popular and a famous film star. He just lived in a wonderful area, in a wonderful house, and actually he called the police and told him about two bodies in the bedroom. And everybody started to think that he was guilty, he is a murderer, and start to have a court. I actually don't like such stories about the court, about the ideas of playing minds, about the things who is a cheater or not. I just enjoyed the moment of a line of the serial killer, because the serial killer decided to be on this court and to try to make a bad thing for the person who was a film star, and he decided to make himself one of the person who would be in a court. So I really love the story, but actually I put it 4 out of 5. I didn't feel myself so involved in the story because of the political moment, because of the court moment, and the moment which connect with the judges and their lives. So I think that 4 is okay, and I know that this was a part of a big series, but I don't know why I decided to read from the 13, probably because of the annotation. And the last story which I want to tell you today, it's the beginning of the new series. It's The Shadow of the Fox, Julie Kagawa, and I really love this story. I put it 4 out of 5, but because I start to think that it's a bit slowly in some moments, but in the story a lot of dynamics, a lot of actions, and really I love the Japanese mythology, which just greatly mixing in the story. The main idea of the story that we have different pieces of one thing in a different places, and our main girl character, she lives in a monastery with the people who just have one of these pieces, and in one moment they start to think that everything is bad because a lot of demons from the mythology, a lot of other bad creatures just attacked them, and a lot of people who were in this monastery, they understood that something go wrong and probably demons need this piece, and they give the piece to our main character, and she's also a small creature. She's just half and a half person and a creature, and she's a kitsune, and she needs to survive yourself and survive, and try to keep all this peace and to put this peace to another place, and to tell them that everything is bad and demons just in attacking everybody who just know everything about these pieces of the puzzle. So actually I love the story. All the story, it's a road trip about our main girl, how he meets a lot of new people, we meet new characters, we meet new creatures from mythology of Japan. I feel really that I'm in Japanese mood through reading this story, because I understood that it was really interesting. And actually I have never read a lot about Japanese mythology, and I understood that it's really interesting, it's really colorful, it's really big, and there are a lot of treasures in the mythology. So I love this story, and the first story of the trilogy just finished at this so depressed, so interesting and involving moment that I wanted to read the next. So I told you today about 11 great books which I read in January. Just let me know how many books have you read in January, how many books of them were really perfect, really great, and what kind of books you really wanted to recommend me for reading in this year. Also tell me about all the stories which you wanted to recommend me from your January wrap-up, because my January wrap-up was really cool. I wanted to recommend all the stories which I told you today about, because they were really interesting, they were really atmospheric, sometimes a bit depressed, and of course if we say about psychological thrillers and detectives, they were really cool, and other investigations were really interesting. Thanks for watching my videos. Bye!